So that is the reason why you have to concentrate on the webinar, out and out. Okay. Yeah, you'll get your answers, I'm pretty sure, by the end of the session, Raj.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. So thank you all for joining in and welcome you to this session of Let Us Talk It professional webinars, which we absolutely try to keep as much as related to work and life, related to things that will help us, that will help each other, the community as a whole. This is absolutely a knowledge sharing platform where you can join anytime you want. It's completely free. And the only desire for us is that spread the word, let others know, and everybody benefit from it. So with that idea in mind, we are extremely happy to have you here today. And those who are joining in on Facebook and YouTube, please do, the comment section is on. Please do ask your question there. And we will, at the end of the session, we will have a question answer session where we will answer your questions. So please do that. And yes, as for our topic today, we have hyper automation, the future of digital transformation, how to create an intelligent automation ecosystem with hyper automation. As far as I have understood from the attendees who have joined, that many may be in RPA or machine learning, but then they are or maybe not that aware of hyper automation. So it's something that a lot of us would be benefiting. So now coming to our speaker, we are extremely glad and honored to have with us Rajesh Patil, who is a seasoned professional with over 20 years of industry experience and over 15 years of experience in leadership roles, enabling organizations through extensive transformation journeys with focus on process improvement. He has hands-on experience and expertise in creating, managing enterprise intelligent automation, operating models, robotics, hyper-automation models, process transformation, and solution architecture. So all of that, I think, is what he does professionally. But as far as his passion goes, he is a professional fitness trainer. He's a musician, a singer. He loves singing. He loves, as he was telling me just a few minutes back, that he loves his fitness, being a fitness trainer. He's a personal fitness trainer as well right now. And yeah, we are extremely glad to have you, Rajesh. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Julian. I appreciate it. First of all, I would like to thank LetUsTalkIT IT for giving me an opportunity to share some of the knowledge, whatever we acquired in the couple of years. Just to give a heads up, as already Julian explained about me, that I have been working in testing pretty much since close to 25 years now. More from manual automation, performance, security, mobile testing, and the last 4 years I have been working in RPA, where I helped almost 30 to 50 customers set up their RPA practice. I also evangelize RPA across different organizations, help mentor, coach how to set up the RPA COE to creating a RPA factory model. And apart from that, moving RPA organizations from regular RPA to cognitive RPA, then creating an intelligent automation RPA. So it's a phase-wise approach. Many organizations do start from RPA, then they move to different phases. But this is happening in the industry for the last close to 3-4 years, just like regular RPA. But now the whole paradigm is shifting, and everyone wants to move to what is called as an intelligent automation or a hyper automation model. So I'm going to focus exclusively more on hyper automation because there are multiple ways you can implement hyper automation, but at the same time there are always you have to look for implementing even hyper automation. So I'm going to go step-by-step process of what actually is hyper automation, how we are going to discuss it, how it is going to help our nations, how to implement it, and we're all in a different fields of the business process transformation, you can use hyperautomation. So I guess we can start with our next slide. So what exactly is hyperautomation? It is it is more of like applying your automation to not what you have been doing earlier, but actually moving beyond and above what automations you are trying to do, especially in like process automation side. Here we are only concentrating more on the process automation side. So how to move your automation to the next level and also like automate more decisions during your business process. So you are trying to limit your human interference and include or infuse more of your automation with more of your agility as well as advanced intelligence as well. So you are trying to more automate processes compared to what you have been doing in earlier. And please feel free to like stop me and ask me any questions if you have in between for any of these slides. I'll be more than happy to discuss about that. Now, I'm going to talk about like few market estimates for hyperautomation technologies. So as we discussed about like why organizations are moving into hyperautomation and what exactly the market estimates look like. So there are like different tools and technologies which will be working in hyperautomation, which we call it as a intelligent BPMS or BPMS, you can call it. The second one is the IPaaS. It is intelligent, intelligent like PaaS. Then RPA is, of course, you all of you know what is RPA, robotic process automation. The other one is like insight engines and process mining and low code. So honestly, like when RPA started like 2-3 years back, the organizations were only focusing on RPA, but they never thought of having insight engines or even process mining or having low code, no code tools, or even including like intelligent BPMS with the RPA. But as the industry started going from like regular RPA to cognitive RPA and cognitive RPA to intelligent RPA, these are some of the new tools and technologies started getting more importance. And organizations do understand that, okay, why these different technologies are also included or needed to increase the efficiency and ROI with respect to RPA technologies. So when I talked about IPaaS, it's basically you are having your platform as a service, the intelligent platform as a service. So those are the few things you need to implement. And based on the Gartner estimation by 2024, you can see that how the market estimation is happening in particularly in this hyperautomation technology. So you can see like BPMS pretty much counting to like 2.54 billion, IPaaS close to 1.69, RPA still 846 million, insight engines close to like like 350 or like 400 million. Process mining is also like 160 to like 200 million. It is kind of in the range because right now, after probably the discussion of these process mining or process discovery tools and technologies coming into market, the process mining market has increased a lot because process mining or process discovery is the precursor to your RPA because it will help every organization to identify the right processes for RPA. Any questions you still have for any of these slides so far? Okay, let's move to the next slide. So now when we are talking about hyperautomation, so you can see what are the complementary technologies you have to work with the hyperautomation or the RPA. So one is like BPMS or IBPMS. The second one is API. Then you have your process mining. Then you have your process discovery. I'm going to discuss like what exactly process mining and discovery comes in here. Then you have your artificial intelligence and like machine learning, optical character recognition, or you call it as an OCR. Then you have your UX platforms. Then you have your low code and no code tools and IPaaS. So But you look here that RPA is one of the central focal point, which is basically talking to all these different technologies. But you do not see that, IBPM is in the center, but RPA is actually in the center because RPA talks to all these different technologies and gets the information, processes it in a much efficient way so that the organizations can achieve higher efficiencies and achieve higher process automation and ROI. And this will help to scale your organization to get into different era or maybe more digital transformation because you are trying to move all your process automation as well as your data into one single digital transformation platform, which will help you to synthesize, process, and automate more process automations. Any questions on this slide? Okay, let's move to the next slide. So I'm going to talk about like few market leaders in particular segments here. One is about the low code, no code. So why we need like low code, no code? I mean, what exactly is a low code? We are going to discuss more in the next slides, but I'm going to just, as the name itself says, like low code, no code. That means you can see that there is hardly any coding required for these low code, no code tools. So you can see that there is some of the market leaders like APN, Mendix, Lance, and Kissflow. These are some of the tools or platforms you can see for like low code, no code tools. And you also have for process discovery, you have Celonis, Process Code, MyInvenio, Fortress IQ, and there are like a lot of other tools available in the market. For IBPMS, you have Pega, APM, and IBM and Bezaki. And for insight engines, you have Google, Coveo, IBM, and LucidWorks. And for iPaaS, you have Informatica, Dell Boomi, Jitterbit, and Workato. And of course, for AI ML, you can see tons of platforms. But I would say the market leaders are still like widely used is a TensorFlow because it's open source, it's free, and you also have a Google, you have MS Azure, you have IBM Watson, but some of them are like paid, some of them are open source, some of them are very expensive, some of them are completely like free. So it depends on the organization, whichever platform they want to use it. Then for UX platforms, you have Sketch, InVision Studio, Adobe XD, and a couple of other tools. For API, which basically talks about how you include your process integration, basically API integration. So you have ASP.NET, Express.js, or jQuery, or Flask. Then for OCR, optical character recognition, you have your AB Fine Reader, Adobe Acrobat, OmniPage, and Kofax. Quite a lot of other tools as well in the market. So why we are discussing about this hyper automation? Why exactly we are talking about this low code, no code, process discovery, iPaaS, AI, ML, UX platform? The reason is these tools actually will accentuate your automation to the next level. With the RPA, maybe you are achieving only like 20-30% process automation or max like 50. But with this additional tools, can help you to automate beyond what your current automation process is being done by RPA, but to take it to the next level and implement end-to-end process automation. Any questions on this slide? We'll move to the next slide. So now we are going to talk about like what exactly is a low code, no code. So low code, no code development platform is a visual software development environment that allows citizen developers to drag and drop application components and connect them together, create a mobile or web application. So now what is a citizen developer? So citizen developers are any your business users who can still do process automation with these tools because there is no coding required or coding expertise required for your citizen developers. So the business users can just think about the process what they are working towards, Let's take example where you are doing with, invoice processing. So you know that this particular invoice is coming in here, and you have to extract the data, load the data into some particular application, and then run the process, and you close those applications. So the business user is aware of that particular application because he or she are working on that for quite some time, or they know that what exactly the whole process is, what kind of applications they are accessing, and how the business process is done. So they know the business process, but they do not know coding at all. So these low code, no code development tools or the platforms can help those citizen developers with just a drag and drop application. So they can open an URL, they can put in an invoice, extract the invoice, then process it and close it. So this is how the low code, no code tools will help the citizen developers. So what is happening in industry is you when you're looking for like a lot of like coding or like developers, but at the same time the business process owners or the SMEs know the process much more than the developers. So with the low code, no code tools, the process automation, because the business users know the process very well, they can do it in a much better way rather than even the developers. So it will help the process automation to a great extent. But at the same time, you still need developers to do the complex application process automation because you still need a coding. So don't think that you just do not need coders, but low code, no code will help only the citizen developers or the business folks to do automation. Now, let's talk about process discovery tools. So what exactly the process discovery tools do? So when you look into any organization, whether you take a retail industry, whether you take a supply chain industry, whether you are talking about banking or financials, healthcare industry, or insurance industries, the processes vary. And now the organizations, when they embark on this journey, they need to understand, okay, what exactly the processes which will help me to automate quickly. At the same time, how do I get the benefit or ROI out of it? Because at the end of the day, any process automation organization or RPA, COE still need to showcase the ROI bringing on the table. So these process discovery or process mining tools help organizations to look into the inventory of the existing processes and help them to identify quickly the right candidates for automation. Very importantly, here is the right candidates of automation. And also, some of them can extend to more into compliance and governance issues, or looking into some SOX compliance or like a HIPAA compliance, whether you have the process is deviating from that or not. So there are some compliance and governance issues they can help you too. But the intent behind process discovery or process mining tools is to identify the right processes. See, I have been working in this industry for a long time, and I work with many organizations, and few organizations haven't scaled very well because process discovery or process mining is the key to success. And if you fail to identify the right process for your process automation or RPA journey, the organizations do fail on the or the ROI because they haven't identified the right process. It could be because of the tool inefficiency, or it could be because of multiple factors like you have the right process, what you identified for the automation. You might have spent a lot of money on the automation of the process, but the ROI itself is very low. Or maybe you only automated 50% and then your process gets changed to a different technology and you have to redo again. So make sure where you are using like process discovery mining tools to help your organizations to identify the right process before you start on embarking on this RPA journey. Now, let's talk about this intelligent BPMS suits. So what exactly they help you? So what they do is these are the tools for orchestrating processes and automating tasks within those processes. So what they do is they kind of consolidate the integration of services, helps you to decision management, process orchestration, and moving them all the analytics into a single platform. So when you identify the right process, but maybe you have 20 processes. Now, how do you make that, okay, now which process I need to automate first? So the IBPM suits, based on the intelligence they can derive and help you to identify the right processes. This happens on the next level after the process discovery. So process discovery tools will create a pipeline, or your complete 20 or 30 processes. But the IBPM tools will go to the next level where they can provide the analytics of which process you need to identify, which is done by automation. It is not through human interference, but you feed the rules. IBPM tools know exactly what they're supposed to do. They have their own calculations. You can still work on those tools, configure them, and get it the right process for the next journey. API, of course, all of you know. Most of the IT industry folks know it's a set of functions and procedures allowing creation of application accesses, whether it is in an operating system, application, or other services, other platforms. So it basically opens up your API integration and work with different tools and the technologies within the hyper automation model. Any questions on the slides? Okay, let's move to the next slide. Now we will talk about insight engines. Insight engines actually work with AI to deliver actionable insights that basically gets from the content on the data source within your organizations or even the external ones. So what exactly they do? They involve your AI and NLP. Like for example, you can say, hey, I need this particular data, and with the insight engines, they can identify with the natural language processing, identify what type of data you are looking for. They will fetch the data from your database and provide it to your RPA process or any process automation just by you talking. So this is a different technology, very niche market. Very few organizations are using as of now in the industry, but it is definitely very helpful when you do not know exactly what data you need, but your brain, your mind knows what type of data you're looking for. You speak about it, it will identify your NLP, gets the data and puts it for you. It's much faster. Now let's talk about iPaaS, which is an integration platform as a service. So it is nothing but a set of automated tools for connecting all of your different software applications in different environments. So the more and more applications or integration you have in your organization, iPaaS helps you to digitize and kind of move all of them into one single application or a platform. So iPaaS is very important when you have multiple process or multiple software applications. If you have only two or thing, whether you want to implement iPaaS or not, you can think about it depending on the business need, your business case, because you also have to know that how much the investment happens for iPaaS. So make sure if you are thinking of iPaaS and you are trying to integrate with multiple applications within your organizations, whether it's cloud or data. Now, let's talk about AI ML platforms. So the AI and ML platforms, of course, we can talk a lot about it, but the basic action or outcomes is your natural language processing when you talk about it, or maybe your image or face recognition, or creating different type of machine learning algorithms for different type of problems. Let's take an example where this talking about the retail industry, where they want to understand, okay, what exactly the customers will buy if they buy this particular X product. So can we sell the Y product with it, which is a complementary or like a cross selling. So you can create different type of machine learning algorithms. Or if you need to identify, okay, what will be the market rate of this house? So you pretty much use like your supervised learning algorithms to do it. But when you want to do like clustering, where you say, hey, I want to know exactly why this particular customer, especially it happens in the telecom industry or any other industry, where when they're losing customers, they want to understand, okay, why, what is the reason behind the disconnections happening in our services? Maybe it's a telecom or DSL or dial. So you have to understand the pattern of the customer disconnects. So there are different type of algorithms used for it. Or when most of us look into Netflix or Amazon, looking at the movies, you will get sometimes saying that, hey, you watch this particular movie or this particular series, and this is the next, maybe, you will like this series or this particular movie, because this is an intelligence behind all these things based on your previous history of watching. They will create a particular machine learning algorithms, which basically the clustering. It says, okay, this is a particular movie which you can watch it because you know that you already watched this movie and you like it. Or maybe with the customer patterns, it will say these are the segments of between this age group. They like maybe the action movies or this kind of movies. So there are multiple ways we can talk about, how machine learning helps. So machine learning is a subset of AI, but AI is one level deep, where you are trying to infuse your intelligence to get the machine learning algorithms to the next level and provide any actions or outcomes based on that. Now, also, like, we can talk about more on AML about these chatbots. So because once you say chatbots, you have a different type of chatbots. You have your informational basic info Q&A chatbots. You also have your transactional chatbots where they kind of do some complete transactions and provide some information. At the same time, you have advisory chatbots where based on your previous step, they will identify and help you with the next step, which is mostly used in like a banking or financial transactions, where it will tell you, hey, this is what you asked and this is the information you get it. So the AIML platform is very huge. It will help you with your chatbots. It can help you with your machine learning algorithms to getting to the data, providing like a lot of like data analytics and what kind of transactions or outcomes you can provide with your AIML platforms. At the same time, providing intelligence, like your stock market. Maybe it can do the predictive analysis of this particular stock went down and up and down in the last like 3-4 months. So if someone is trying to buy that particular stock, it can come and say, hey, no, let's not buy this particular stock, but wait for some more time and it's going to go down, and it can create a threshold or like a alerts and do it. Now, how this AI ML will help in RPA side? So when you run a bot and when the bot fails, you know that why, how I can help to the next level. So you can create your AI or like a machine learning algorithms which can do a predictive analysis of your bot failures and can identify and say this particular bot failed for this particular reason, and this was a particular process which will help them to close the issue and again rerun the bot. So it will kind of do a complete analysis and looks into the predictive analysis of a previous issues and what solution was implemented to help the bot resurrect, and it will implement those. So that is how in the bot world AIML is also used. So you can see nowadays like UiPath also has like what is called as the AI fabric, where you can create your machine learning algorithms and put it into the bots and it can continue the journey. So that's we talk about about the AIML platforms which will help you. And for in healthcare industry, especially for like a clinical test, I know we are going through a unprecedented time right now with this COVID issue, a pandemic across the globe, and many organizations are going through clinical trials, and you have to get all these informations with the placebo, your clinical results, just to understand like what is happening. So during this time, AI/ML will help a lot. I know that there are many organizations have even implemented AI to identify the face recognition. When the patient comes in, the machine sitting there identify the face and can do thermal check and everything and provide information whether the patient has COVID or not. So there are multiple ways you can use it. You can use in telecom industry, retail industry, healthcare industry, and many other, banking and financials, even like for someone is trying to do a transaction, which basically is like an outlier where everyone is only doing like, maybe based on his previous transactions, never did it more than like $5,000. But if someone is taking out $20,000, so it's an outlier transactions, it will create a trigger and it will look into, especially for looking at this anti-money laundering or like, basically fraudulent transactions. So different ways AML platforms will help. And there are a lot of different tools like IBM Watson, Data Robot. This will provide a complete platform for you to implement your machine learning, AI, as well as your chatbots. Now let's talk about the UX platform. Of course, UX platform, most of you know, it's basically providing a platform between user and set of applications, creating the right, visual or like a UX, UI or UI platform. OCR is optical character recognition. This is basically a software which offers the ability to use any document scanning or any of your like invoices or any of your forms, W2, W4 forms, and convert all the data into digital formats and then help the process automation. So that's why most of the OCRs have been used. Any questions on this slide? Let's move to the next slide. Now, this is the industry is moving towards. So when we are talking about,
excuse me, can
Yeah.
I ask you a question
Sure, go ahead.
on the previous one? This AI and ML is being touted as an independent technology or independent, altogether a different set of tool which can stand by itself. But then the way you are projecting it is a subset of RPA. Am I right?
No. AI, ML, RPA is one of the cogs in the wheel in the hyper automation. So let me go back to the slide. So I'll show
Yeah,
you.
please. Sorry that I went back.
No problem. So if you see here, RPA is the central point here, right? So you have your BPMS, API, process mining, process discovery, AI, OCR, UX platforms, low code, iPaaS. So RPA is, as example, I said, like, you have to run through your clinical test, right? So with your AI ML, you provide that information about the person's, whether he has a COVID or not, but it comes back to RPA. So RPA does the processing. Okay. And it sends a report. Or when you have, when a particular person logs into like Amazon or Netflix or, any of your retail stores, you directly see that, oh, you purchased this particular red shirt or like, black t-shirt. And we know that, this, you might like this particular shirt or this thing. How do you get that intelligence? Because there is a process which runs, the RPA runs and gets this intelligence from AI or ML algorithms and provides you that information.
Okay.
Right. So it is, RPA is actually a subset of AI ML.
Oh, lovely.
It's an independent, right? I mean, AI is like, it's basically artificial intelligence. So you can put it across anywhere.
Okay.
But then machine learning is basically a subset of it, where because machine learning helps you to create those particular uh, algorithms to do it, like supervised learning, then reinforcement learnings, which basically learns. For example, when you're looking into car, right, car manufacturing or car trash, right? So you are like, right now you are having this Tesla or any of these cars, which is automated cars. So how do they understand? Because you built in an artificial intelligence information system which identifies everything across you, gets the information, and runs the machinery or the processes to doing it. Automated cars, right? So RPA, then you have deep learning is basically you can use TensorFlow and a lot of these different tools which will help to implement those machine learning. So you have AI, ML, then subneath you have deep learning.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So now we are talking about why organizations are looking or moving towards hyperautomation. So based on Gartner reviews and the forecasting, you can see that by 2023, 50% of new RPA scripts will be dynamically generated. That means what is going to happen is, as you keep recording your RPA script, it's going to create your RPA scripts as you are starting to record your processes. So there is a more of like these things coming up. At the same time, citizen developers can create, as they're working on the process, they can create these automations. By 2022, you can see 80% of RPA-centric automation implementation will derive from the complementary technologies. So when I'm talking about this AI, ML, IBPMS, OCR technologies, and process mining and process discovery. So these are actually the tools or technologies which work in combined with RPA to accelerate the automation, the efficiencies, and the ROI. And by 2024, we are talking about organizations will lower operational costs by 30% by combining hyperautomation technologies. And of course, there could be some redesigning of this operational process because you are trying to integrate multiple applications or software tools and technologies together with RPA. And by 2023, there will be a 30% increase in use of RPA for front office functions, so which is basically like sales and customers. So as of now, it has been touted as like RPA is more of like a back office. Some of most of still we are using for the front office operations as well, but still front office was not heavily used by RPA. But now I think by 2023 there's going to be at least some increase in the RPA in the front office as well. And we are talking about RPA adoption by corporate functions. So you can see how RPA is being adopted is like, of course, in IT systems, it's pretty much on 50%, finance and accounting by 35, operations and production by 33, then customer service is 31, HR by 28, manufacturing by 27, engineering design, product development, education training. So you can see, how it is being, but yeah, of course, the lowest one is supply chain and logistics, but there are still like many options still heavily used in supply chain and logistics as well. When you talk about like manufacturing industry is also going through a lot of transformation, which is basically called as a manufacturing 4.0, which is the smart manufacturing. So you kind of start with manufacturing, then simple automation, then smart manufacturing, and complete like intelligent manufacturing, where you are trying to implement your IoT, you have your CAD CAM, you have your 3D printing machines, you have your Wi-Fi connected, you have your RFID sensors, which will help you to do more automation for your predictive analysis of your machine management, or kind of identifying if anything can happen. It kind of senses and provides information that this particular machine requires maintenance or something, or based on the time or wear and tear, or any of those, and also digitizing processes, implementing your blockchain for your contract negotiations or the contract documentation, security. And you also use it, of course, you are implementing your security system as well to make sure your data is secure. And what is called as a cobot, which is basically human and bots working together. That is the cobot technology. So there's a lot of transformation happening even in the manufacturing industry, implementing moving towards digitization and implementing robots and cobots and managing your manufacturing processes through robots as well. So it's a good thing happening, but at the same time, it requires a very heavy investment as well. These are the things happening in the manufacturing industry. So now, as we discussed about like how hyperautomation is helping, what are the different tools and technologies aiding your automation in conjunction with your RPA, and what are the how the industry is moving, what is the industry prediction, at the same time, what are the different verticals or the streams hyperautomation or RPA adoption is happening in the industry. So with that, I would like to go for the Q&A session. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll be very happy to help you on that.
First of all, thank you very much for a wonderful coverage of a very deeply technical topic. Generally speaking, the speakers explain one technical term with 3 other technical terms and leave people confused even more before than when they started. But then in your talk, I noticed everything was demystified and very appropriate words were used, and the exact length of coverage was given, and it was very stimulating to listen to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And my first question is on low code, no code.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the entire gamut of automation, whether it is AI or ML or RPA, has its due share of criticism because it generates unemployment. This is a typical objection we have seen from the typewriter days.
Absolutely right. Yes.
Now, when you say the low code, no code can be done by business users,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little bit worried that it can generate unemployment even for the programmers, coders, and business analysts. Because when the business users can generate the code, then what are we doing with the programmers?
Correct. Yeah.
Will it result in unemployment there too?
Yeah. So now it's a very good question. Thank you. So this was the same thing happened when actually computers came in. When computers came in, people thought that it's going to take away the jobs of human, but no, actually it created many jobs. Now at the same time, when RPA came in, like when we organizations like I work with, this is always like it's a myth or truth. I mean, this is one of the topic actually I had to give it a. I was in a conference where I was discussing about like what RPA is and what are the myths and truths about it. So RPA, of course, does a lot of process automation, but at the same time, it created many because what is happening is it will only help you to automate the mundane activities and increase your efficiency. It can lead, of course, to some FTE reduction, but at the same time, the same FTE will be used for higher different roles where you need more of cognitive skills rather than just doing a mundane activity, which can be taken care by a software bot. Now, when you are talking about like low code, no code, what is happening in industry is, like you can see, like when RPA came in, now all these different tools also germinated, right? Like process mining wasn't existing, but now it is a precursor for it. Now AI ML wasn't been heavily used unless RPA. So now you can see there are many machine learning programmers or everything. So the shift can happen. I mean, the same folks can get reskilled and get into different things, but it is not going to eliminate the jobs for sure. So there will be a FTE reduction in a different aspect, but at the same time, it can create different jobs. It can help the employees to move into different category of section or the jobs rather than doing just the regular mundane activity. So citizen developers, of course, can do some process automation, but they will be only doing for the minimal, like a basic ones. But for the complex ones, of course, you need the programmers to do it. Does
very
that
good.
help it? Yeah.
Yeah, very good. My viewpoint is with the with the onslaught of coronavirus.
Yeah.
And we have seen in the automobile sector manufacturing suffering because people were not allowed to go to work due to the virus spread. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, today the situation is if you want to buy an European car sitting in America, the inventory is just not there because they were not able to produce the normal way and there is a big wait list.
Correct.
Now, when we hit upon this kind of a stumbling block in the supply chain, not only the manufacturing guys, even the consumers are driven to adapt to these technologies in a high speed. The RPA, ML, you wish they're not available like last year, because irrespective of these viruses going around, these machines can keep on producing.
Yes.
So it is, I'm awestruck and I'm wonderstruck that how there are really application situations emerging for these new technologies as we are talking. And they are not only catchwords and bandwagons,
correct,
but they are genuinely fulfilling a requirement which can sometimes cripple the economies.
That is true. I agree. At certain points, a very valid point. I appreciate that. See, I'm talking about hyper automation as well, but I have been working with many organizations in RPA too. So, is it like I have written few articles on LinkedIn as well. Is it like hyper automation, of course, helps your organizations to get to the next level. You move from your regular cognitive and regular RPA to cognitive and intelligent automation, chatbot and everything, different stuff. But there is a lot of investment also required. So the organizations need to weigh the business use case, whether you really need the hyper automation or not. Unless you really require, this is my point of view, do not just join the bandwagon of hyper automation because everyone is doing it. So you have to weigh the business case. You really need to understand how your business, you need to have the right vision, create a right business use case. Then only you think of, because it's integration just with the RPA, many organizations struggled. And now with the integration of all these different tools and technologies, you really need to master all these technologies. Understand the craft, deep craft is very much required to implement all these technologies in a very efficient way to achieve higher ROI. Otherwise, you invest heavily and you're not trying to have your right use cases. So this is what happens in the industry. You need to really understand whether you require hyper automation or not. But yeah, ELA, when organizations have, many large organizations still can get benefited with hyper automation, and we can do it. But yeah, for smaller organizations, you have to think before you start this journey. That's my point of view.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Raj, and thank you, Rajesh. And Raj almost was taking away my job. So, as a moderator, whatever maybe I thought of saying and not saying, he said it all. So, thank you, Raj, for that and for the question. And any other question from anyone?
So I just want to add one point here, because in the industry, when I looked at it, many organizations have not achieved the ROI what they envisaged when they started the RPA practice. So they get stalled halfway through after 6 months, 1 year down the line. So I kind of pioneered this particular service called as a RPA Health Check, where I evaluate organizations based on their technologies, based on their architecture, based on their board development best practices, based on their COE, which is the core area where I help organizations to set up from process identification, feasibility analysis, complexity analysis, to setting up the right RACE model, different team with the playbook, having them the right governance model and everything. So that is another discussion we can have whenever you want, why organizations are failing, what kind of, we can help you. So I just want to, put it across saying that this is maybe if any organizations still have any issues, they can contact me and I can help them on resurrecting their RPA practice based on this evaluation of the service.
Sure. Thank you so much for that update. Chandu, please go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Hi, Rajan. Yeah, that was a very good presentation, very informative actually.
Thank you.
So, yeah, so when I'm just listening to your session, so I just shared one word like AI fabric. What is UiPath AI fabric? You mentioned that, right?
Yeah.
So, like, so you are telling the UiPath AI fabric is hyper automation kind of uh, uh,
No. It is just the addition of like machine learning in your bot. So it
okay.
is just trying to increase your intelligence for the bots, like where you can create your machine learning algorithms and put it across. Like, you can create a bot, and if it is like related to real estate, you can use a particular machine learning, supervised learning algorithm to identify the market, price of that house based on area, depending on the zip code, crime rate, there are like multiple different, factors. Based on that factor, you can identify the price of the house. That's how, some of the things you can do it, or like any of these telecom industry examples what I gave. So it helps you. Hyper automation is basically having your process mining to working with it. You have at least like 4 or 5 different technologies working with your RPA.
Mhm.
Maybe all not IBPMS or an iPass everything, but at least like process mining tools, because UiPath also has that process mining tool with it, right? So it works with it. So that's how you create it. It can create a process definition document for you. Then you can feed it. It helps you to automate the process by directly with the process definition document. So a step-by-step process where your RPA journey is accentuated with these different tools and technologies. Maybe it can have only 2 or 3 additional ones. Maybe you can have like 5 or 6 ones,
Mhm.
depending on.
And yeah, coming to RPA market leaders.
Mhm.
And yeah, we listen some UiPath, Automation Anywhere, and Blue Prism.
Right.
So like yeah, when I'm just researching about that now, so this all market leaders are using hyper automation. Like they all
Uh,
have the hyper automation technique, technologies kind of thing. So in your experience, what would be the best platform you can to achieve the come end to end hyper automation?
See, I mean, I provide a lot of this point of view, or like competitive analysis of different tools. I mean, these tools are not as of now the complete hyper automation. They are moving towards hyper automation,
Hmm.
and like UiPath, of course, has it. Cognitive capabilities has it. Then Automation Anywhere has IQ bot, which is basically a cognitive capability one. So, but still, IBPM is not there. The AI ML part is still missing. So it's a mix of everything. Like for OCR, they do have it. So
Hmm. Yeah.
it is a they do have some part of hyper automation, but not fully. The hyper automation model itself is the one which I discussed about the previous slides, where when you have low code, no code, UX platform, OCR, AI, process discovery, everything together working.
Hmm.
This is the hyper automation. So you can see like some of these tools or technologies have been used in UiPath and Automation Aware and everything, but
Yeah.
not all of them as of now. So
Yes. Okay. So
they
like
are moving. I mean,
another.
they're pretty much almost there. It's almost there.
Okay. So like you can say some UiPath is like ahead of them, kind of
Uh,
any competition
no,
we can.
we cannot say which one is ahead of, but depending on the organization, depending on the vision, depending on your budget, depending on multiple factors, ease of adoption, the security, RBAC model, how you are doing it.
Mhm.
So it depends on what you are looking for. Then it depends on the factors what you're looking for. Those are the tools you can buy.
Mhm. And yeah, another question out of curiosity. So when I first listened about automation, I thought it would be a very future. And here comes hyper automation. And what would be next automation we can see in future? Something kind of very bigger than
Uh,
hyper automation.
I think at least for the next couple of years, hyper automation will be the talk of the town. So this is going to be the industry jargon, or maybe the future as of now, because even to implement master the craft, it will take few years.
Okay,
Because
like
right now, like
Yeah,
RPA,
and also the users as well as the industries will have to see the ROI on the hyper
mhm,
automation.
yeah,
and
Yeah.
then benefit from it and then build on it instead of looking at more and more technologies at one go. You incrementally implement. That's what I would imagine. People can see the benefits, right?
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So like what are some disadvantages you can say? Some things you uh, you didn't saw in hyper automation, some kind
So
of process.
yeah, that's the one thing I talked about is in the previous one also, like I mentioned, like the investment part, right? I mean, like
Okay.
this will be a new thing, and you need to understand, okay, how to integrate IVPMS, how to integrate AI, how to integrate ML. What are the different tools you want to buy? Do you want to buy like the license one? Do you want to buy open source one? So if you buy license one, maybe you have different tools, and the integration of those tools, and you need to have the right SMEs for those tools to implement, right? So it is going to cost you heavily. So, and even if one or two of those integrations do not work well, then your whole hyper automation model will fail.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah. Thank you.
the investment cost, that's why I said you have to weigh the investment cost, the business case with your ownership vision. When you say this is absolutely right for you, then you go for hyper automation.
Okay. Thank you so much for your
Okay.
presentation and your
Yeah, I feel
explanations.
the healthcare sector is more amenable to this kind of automation, because during this coronavirus, we saw the elective surgeries were not held due to the virus fear.
Yeah.
Now this telemedicine, telesurgery, remote surgery, etc., will need to assume a greater speed.
Absolutely
So that
right.
should there be any other crisis like this, the patient care cannot wait, will not wait,
Yeah.
and it can be allotted the priority it requires.
Yeah. So see, this is where the automation comes in very handy, because anyone can sit anywhere. I can still run through this, any of these tests, runs, medical trials, and automation, surgeries, pretty much everything. So I work with few organizations where they kind of do this robotic surgeries as well. So the accuracy and precision is very, very important, right? So having these machine learning tools and providing the right information to the doctors, everything is very important.
Yeah.
So with a human, it is not at all possible. So once you move all these information to digital and getting this information from different siloed teams, moving everything into one single digital platform, accessing the information, providing it, it can happen in a snap of a second. When you run through a bot, it can happen in a snap of a second.
Yeah, the healthcare priority is such that whether we wait for the use case to implement a technology or create the technology and then create the use case. See, the chicken comes first or the egg comes first.
Yes.
That is the question. And we are more often compelled to say, after seeing that we need the technology first and we can create the use cases later. Maybe, or you can accentuate it to meet up the requirements so people can see the needs and adapt it more easily.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh,
thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Raj. Thank you, Chandu. So quickly, I'll just ask one more time. Any other question, comments? I see Chandra Shekhar has joined. Can you unmute and just introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Chandrasekhar here. I'm the director for Controllers Data Centers, Hyderabad.
Oh, wow. Welcome. And very nice to have you.
It's a great experience and wonderful session you had today. And it's good. I enjoyed the session. I think more and more sessions like this you should conduct. Okay.
Yeah, we are. We do it every week, Chandrasekhar. We do it Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, professional sessions. And Wednesdays and Thursdays, we particularly target technical sessions. So, yeah, so we'll love to have you in the future sessions as well.
Sure.
Thank you so much for joining.
Julian, one request. Can you please send the copy of this presentation along with the slides because I would like to see it once more and, benefit from it. Because when you're at work, sometimes some emails comes, your attention tends to get diverted, but I want to sit after hours and listen to it all over again, including the question answers.
Sure. I'll send it to you, Raj. Yeah. So with that, we end this session of our Let Us Talk It webinar. But as we got the suggestion and we already do it, we have another session waiting tomorrow. It's another. He is a speaker who had been our guest speaker last time when we had to really, go for him. And then this time he joined Google and he said that he has some new experiences and new things to share. And he will be here tomorrow with us with the topic, an introduction to quantum computing, explore, define, and benefit from the rapidly approaching age of quantum computing. So it will be something very interesting, and we hope that all of you would join, explore, and learn something new. Just to repeat myself, that we'll be having our Let Us Talk It youth session, which has started from July, and we are extremely happy that we will be having some new faces this week as well. And the topic is very interesting. It is phone hack, how I unlocked myself from my phone addiction. So if you are in that process of in an addiction, like your phone, your social media, electronics, I would say, gadgets, then, and if you have come out of it, or you are thinking in a different way, please do join us. The youths now have their perspective and you can share yours. So we want all of you to get help from each other, to share, and as well share your experiences as well with us. So thank you so much for joining in today, and we'll see you again tomorrow at 12 p.m. EST. Thank you all. Thank you, Rajesh, once again.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.